So thanks for inviting me. So I have now Swiss Mountain Time, so it's 7 p.m. here in Switzerland, and I'm happy to talk about a topic that I'm currently working on. And the question is, how can knowledge graphs support animal-free safety assessments of chemicals? So, firstly, as Steve said, we got in contact via LinkedIn, and at LinkedIn, I'm a trainer for knowledge graphs and blockchain. And firstly, I will give you some insights about the trainings because lately we reached the milestone with 10,000 training sessions via LinkedIn. Then I wanted to introduce you to this area of safe and sustainable design, especially for chemicals, and want to present you the project Risk Hunter, and then give a short outlook on what we are um, doing in the next months. So I'm an advisor for knowledge graphs here in Switzerland. I have trainings on LinkedIn. Uh, I'm doing also on-site trainings and trainings at universities here in Switzerland. I'm doing projects and also data governance and data lifecycle management projects also in banking. So I enjoyed also the talk of UBS. So because here in Switzerland the topic of data lifecycle is very at the top because the financial industry regulation here in Switzerland said that 1st of January, all banks here have to present a data lifecycle management concept for their critical data. And now every bank is thinking what is our critical data and how to manage the lifecycle. But today, I want to share some insights first about the LinkedIn training. So the training started in 2020, and I have it as an introduction in the data science pathway, learning path at LinkedIn, and the training is in English and also in German. So if you want, you can search for it on LinkedIn Learning. And interestingly, the most common industries were until now pharmaceuticals, financial services, healthcare, but also manufacturing industry and telecommunication um, were in these courses. And typically, the most common titles by the learners. And as you know, if you take a course at LinkedIn, LinkedIn knows which job profile you have. So typical profiles would be project managers, um, consultants, business strategy, technology, data analysts, but also salespersons. And these 10,000 learners, so the majority is in English and 13% are in German language. So for the market here in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. And some of the learners also gave me feedback after the lessons. And typically, I had discussion with the data experts, and they say, "Yeah, I have the technical expertise now, but how do I sell knowledge graphs to the business?" If the learners were more from the side of digital project managers or innovation managers, they ask more, and we discussed about how to innovate with knowledge graphs. And the business managers, they always ask more, what's the impact on my business? And in the first talk, we heard also a little bit about blockchain. And I'm also doing blockchain courses since 2016. And if I compare now knowledge graph to blockchain, so I have to say in the German version, because there I can compare it, uh, we blockchain is much more prominent. Yeah? So 20,000 learners have attended the blockchain course, while in German language only 1,300 learners were interested in knowledge graphs. Also, the in-house workshops I'm doing currently, it's mainly with knowledge graph for the data experts with the in-house teams, whereas with blockchain you have a little bit more of a broader spectrum. So also business managers are attending. If you look now to Switzerland, and if you ask yourself where should the experts for knowledge graph uh, be born and raised and educated, so we have some university courses here in Switzerland, but not very much. Whereas here in Switzerland, blockchain technology is very well adapted in the education system. Also, maybe we have this crypto valley, and the Ethereum Foundation is also located here in Switzerland in Zug. So my conclusion also, if I talk to companies, on one side, we have to build up knowledge graph education, because otherwise it will be a niche discipline for some data experts. On the other hand, I'm very surprised and happy that we have more than three speakers from Switzerland at this conference. So this means also in Switzerland, the uh, adoption might be higher than in other countries. But now let's switch to the discipline of safe and sustainable by design for chemicals and materials. So if you look at the life cycle of a chemical, so you take raw materials, you produce the chemicals, you use it, and then it's end of life. And as you know, chemical waste is a problem. But also chemicals are used in materials and products. And if you um, develop a new cosmetic product, you have to test this product and the chemicals, for example, also with animal testing. So this means the idea of safer by design in this context is the idea um, to say, okay, we have the Green Deal, we have the goal of green engineering, sustainable chemistry, and you might know the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Um, for example, zero hunger or reduce waste. And the basic idea in this concept is that you try to have risk assessments in the design process, so that you focus on designing products that are safer for humans and more sustainable for the environment. So if we look at the design process, we have the design phase, raw materials, production, the use, and then the end of life. And this process and these products can be assessed by impacts from the sustainable development goals. On one side, we have environmental goals, we have maybe social goals, and as well economic uh, goals. And these um, diagrams are taken from the European Union, from the Joint Research Center. And if we look at the safety aspects, especially for chemicals, we would have, for example, risks for human health. So, for example, that chemical could harm your skin, and in the worst case, lead to cancer. We have also risks for the environment, uh, and yeah, to the whole ecosystem. And the company I'm currently working with is called Edelweiss Connect, and they try to do these safety assessments also um, as computational simulations. For example, there is one application where you could test if a new product or chemical combination of chemical compounds could harm your skin. So this application is called Safer Skin, and around this idea to say you need to have tests for different organisms. For example, for you want to test if something harms your liver, if something harms your skin, or has other effects. Um, the startup is building up a platform with partners called saferworldbydesign.com, where producers of products, let's say cosmetic companies, crop science, or other industry sectors can get the expertise in these assessments. And Edelweiss Connect is involved in a project called Risk Hunter. And this stands for Risk Assessment of Chemicals Integrating Human-Centric Next Generation Testing Strategies Promoting the 3 Rs. And it's a multi-year project, and there are also other collaboration with other EU projects in this area. One of the former projects was called EU Tox Risk, and it's the idea also to publish the outcomes of the project as open data, and so that these, let's say, studies that have been executed can be, let's say, accessed by in the openly, and can have effects and positive effects. We have the project, as you see, it's called Risk Hunter and the 3 Rs. I just want to uh, tell you what the 3 Rs in this context is. It's the idea on one side to replace animal testing. So this means the researchers are thinking how can we have test methods that really replace animal testing or reduce animal testing so that fewer animals have to be used, or how could we refine the test methods that potential pain is limited. And now we come to the topic of knowledge graphs in this context, and it's on one side it's very interesting. On one side you can we are working on a knowledge graph for in vitro studies. So if you have organisms like zebrafish or liver, so you execute the studies in vitro. But one vision is also to say we can have computer simulations. They are called in silico studies. And as the simulation techniques advance, also you can think of these reactions of the chemical compounds as a graph, and maybe this graph could lead to an adverse outcome, to an outcome that is not desired. For example, that a certain combination of chemicals leads to cancer. And here we have the research questions: which computing methods can give reliable predictions about this, because the result has to be approved by a regulatory um, authority. So currently, our work just started last year. We are working in the Risk Hunter project on a knowledge portal that connects different sources of information. For example, the compounds and test methods, the data sets of studies that have been already executed, the scientific research information that was created, and the collaboration with other research initiatives, for example, the AOP wiki or the OnTox program. In this context, we could also, let's say, there is an initiative called COVID Graph, started as COVID emerged. So this is the same idea here. We have to say, let's make it easier for the researcher and risk assessor to uh, find the data and have a clear overview. And the FAIR principles are clearly also here a important topic. So our use cases are firstly to improve search, to, let's say, have a mapping between the different semantics and ontologies. As you know, maybe we had this words zebrafish and liver, so not like in the snowmate ontology. The snowmate ontology is about the, let's say, about humans, but here in these tests we have also animals and other organs. So uh, this is quite a challenge for the different domain experts, let's say, to do here the mapping and also to create a data catalog that data from different research projects can be shared. And one of the emerging topics clearly is how can new methods like graph data science and machine learning, can they be used in these environment, or um, would a regulator not accept only in silico um, calculation? Our lessons learned until now are that clearly the knowledge graph can improve the knowledge management, but there are different user groups, data scientists that are very experienced also with Jupyter notebooks, Python, R, and others, where other uh, user group risk assessors, they are not so deep into the, let's say, hands-on data science. Also, the, let's say, expectation of users may rise as ChatGPT shows how user-friendly something request, a question and answer system can be. But clearly, in this context, large language models uh, cannot be used to have really um, evidence that has the same evidence as um, in vitro tests. Intensive discussions are currently between how we could use these, for example, graph data methods, because the, let's say, structures of these pathways is a graph, but the question is about reproducibility, trust, and data integrity. On the other hand, we see that it is quite a challenge if you are not a big pharma company, but if you are a decentralized network of small and medium-sized startups and also universities. So this is, uh, from my point of view, currently the biggest challenge, the know-how challenge, where where can we get enough people that are trained as well in the technical dimensions as well as in the subject matter experts. And we're trying to make, let's say, here a model for the collaboration in this distributed network, that we try to build teams. On one side, they are in different organizations, but on the other hand, they have to work together. So we are trying to map here that we have combined expertise in the technical area, but also domain expertise about the different special subject areas. And as an outlook, I would like to uh, give you some insights in a project that has been just started in the beginning of the year. And it is the idea and the challenge to explore these safer world by design principles for South Africa. So the company Edelweiss is participating in a Swiss innovation program. That program should help Swiss startups to explore how these new methods can be applied in South Africa and other African countries. And here, the first step is here also to create a knowledge graph to map the impacts and the sustainable development goals, because this could be quite a complex area. So we are developing currently a knowledge graph for the different potential sectors, for example, natural cosmetics, crop science, chemicals, that we analyze which use cases could we apply in South Africa. How can they, let's say, help producers there, for example, in the design and testing of natural cosmetic products? And the question, would this lead and to improve the goals from the sustainable development goals? So as a short conclusion, so the knowledge graphs in context of this specific area of design and testing of safer products, it clearly can improve the knowledge management in the research. And there we have also some blueprints like the COVID graph. It can also improve the impact assessment and life cycle assessments to find new use cases. But I would say where we are just making first steps is in the field, can graph data science methods help in this risk assessment in this area? So I hope you got a little bit impression how on one side the education in about knowledge graphs in Switzerland is progressing, and maybe also um, a short introduction how products could be made safe and sustainable. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, we've got a raised hand. Let's see here. Okay, we should be able to hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, could you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, perfect. Thank you very much. I was really impressed about all of this that you presented. So I got really excited from the perspective of science. I was thinking maybe if the scientists all around the world in universities, when they see the correlation factors and or when they can see the overall connection between different research topics and concept, this would revolutionize the future science in the sense that people could see if in that corner there are some correlations, there should be also the same in this other corner or such, or the first level connections or the second level connections could be enlightening some sort of understanding for proposal of futures like researchers. So what's your comment on that? Like, could it be something useful for everyone? And then my second question is, when it comes to correction of such a graph, like in the sense that some findings this year could contradict the findings last year, or different research topics at the same time contradict each other. So how could it be to consider this kind of complications when it comes to the update of the graph? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think on one side, we really have to see on one side the knowledge graph is a tool for knowledge mining and getting the researcher or the risk assessor that he really has an overview. And I think the COVID situation was there. Everybody knows that it was a hard situation and that every day new research articles came. So it is clear that the researchers had to have a daily update on their what's up in research. Um, whereas here in the toxicological areas, and I'm not a domain expert, so I'm helping and facilitating the teams. It is more that you have distributed research communities all over the world, and you have to connect them. And maybe it's also important to understand that these findings are not only focused on pharma. It is could be, let's say, every product that has some chemicals in it. Yeah. So there, I think the how to say the big pharma companies, also with IDMP and their data initiatives, they are, let's say, maybe on the leading edge. Yeah. Then we have the big banks, but let's say the smaller sized companies or a small natural cosmetics company. There, the question is also how can they leverage this know-how and this technique. And yeah, I think on one side the EU is pushing, so all the data should be also open as open data. On the other side, the topic of the Green Deal and more greener projects is also getting more traction.
One comment from the chat: I appreciate the icon you use for data catalog is a pretzel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here's our hand back.
I wonder, sorry for sort of digressing with respect to the particular topic, but given your experience in also teaching, I presume university level students, I wonder, who do you see as having kind of, in terms of backgrounds, educational backgrounds, who do you see as having the kind of a easier path into understanding these topics? And is it data scientists or people with, I don't know, more humanities backgrounds or scientific in general? Or
Yeah, so I have also experience in 20 years of records management. And for example, here in Switzerland, we have only one university that is doing records management, but these students go more into the public sector, e-government. Yeah? So I think to work on ontologies and taxonomies, on one side, you need to have the domain expertise. On the other hand, you have to have these structured approaches. Yeah. And currently, here in Switzerland, there are projects in the university hospitals. So 5 universities, hospitals are trying to share their data, and they made now a data coordination center, and they are trying to educate the users but it's very hard if you, let's say, have to do a RDF course or Sparkle course, and if the users are more interested in clinical trials. Yeah. So, and on the other side, we have here in Switzerland IT universities and database courses. Yeah, but I see the challenge that maybe the big companies or big pharma, big financial institutions, they can hire specialized teams, but currently I do not see the, let's say, big educational trend for knowledge graphs.
Daniel, just getting back to the collaboration between the domain experts, could you just, since you've been coordinating that, could you give us a sense of what those types of sessions look like? How do you drive towards some of the outcomes that you're looking to achieve?
Yeah, it's on one side that there are distributed teams with know-how in biomedical research. On the other side, there are teams or use cases where you have other industry sectors. For example, natural cosmetics. So I think if you are within the pharma industry, you have a more homogeneous, let's say, subject matter expertise know-how, but it's quite complex. Whereas if you would now try to go into sectors for safety assessments in other industries, it is not so well equipped. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, JT, do we got any other questions that have come up, or any hands you see?
No. One quick comment that came in the chat. I think increasingly universities and government are including familiarization with FAIR principles, and this is a route to upskilling the bulk of the workforce.
Yeah, that's right. Also here, it's clear if you do a research project in Switzerland, you have to follow the FAIR principles. Yeah. But for the researchers, it's not. It's not their main job. Yeah. So I was more talking about the general, let's say, how to become an ontologist, or let's say a full-time professional in this area.
Mhm.
And that what I mean. There are, let's say, courses to take certain job profiles, like in university hospitals, to the next level. Yeah.
Mm.
But then,
Let's see. We do have a hand up now. Peter should be able to hear you.
A question or a comment for Daniel, and I think it's just a question because of the stuff that he talked about at the beginning of the presentation. I was actually at the Data-Centric Architecture Forum in 2020 in February, so exactly 3 years ago, and Alan Morrison was there. I met Dave McComb and several other people, and there was a presentation there by Brian Platz, who was the Chief Technical Officer of Fluree, Fluree, which had a product which combined knowledge graphs, Web3, and blockchain, or distributed ledger technology. And I was just wondering if you knew about that, because I've talked to a few people over here about that, because it's been transformed into a public benefit corporation. So basically, that means it's open source. As far as I remember, their biggest customer, or one of their big customers, is the U.S. Air Force, but they don't really say much about what they're doing with the U.S. Air Force. But I just thought, Daniel, you should know about them. I can put the link to the story in the chat if anybody's interested. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. So I had also contacts with Flory, and they have a very innovative system. Yeah, but on the other side, the question is, how do you publish also this open data? Who takes care of the platform? Yeah, and for example, if a research project, let's say, has ended, yeah, who maintains the platform? Yeah. I think that is also a little bit the challenge with these research data initiatives. Yeah, but thanks for the input.
Okay, Steve, I'll hand it back to you here. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Daniel.